Okay, so everything had some time to dry, and it's still a little bit tacky, but we can still move on because it's just the base. So we're going to put this is the maple, we're going to put that aside, and we're going to start thinking about doing the masts. When it comes to the ship thus far, I think what I am going to do is I'm going to put another coat of the maple on the sides, and I'm going to even out the walnut line to make it a little more straight. But other than that, I think it's pretty good like this. I was going to put another coat, but I think this is pretty good. So I'm going to leave it like this. And again, the reason I did this is because we're doing the Flying Dutchman from Oakrey, and I had wanted to get some experience with making a model ship, and this one was a lot less expensive than that one was. So you can see we got the structures on the deck and everything is nice and dry. Alright, so now we're going to move on. We're going to be doing the masts. So if we take a look at the instructions, speaking of the Flying Dutchman, that's the color guide, the paint guide. Alright. So, like everything else on the instructions for this model is very vague. So when it comes to the masts, we're going to have 2 for the main mast. That's going to be together. It looks like we're going to have 2 again. So we're going to have 4 that need to go together for the 2 masts. There are only 2. And then we have the mizzen mast. And it doesn't even show how to put the mizzen mast on. I mean, there's actually no place to put it. I don't know if they want you to see the model in the illustration. It's totally different than what we got, because this section was raised and there's a lower section on the model, but on this, I'm thinking like all the ships that I had seen, the mizzen mast comes out just above over the bow, so I think that's how we're going to do it. So we're going to have to drill in and then bring it out this way. But the first thing I want to do is we need to actually get the pieces, because you can see in addition to the 4, we're going to need the cross sections. Let's see, the cross section is 1 on the bottom. And that looks like the only one on the back. On the front mast, you can see there's 1, 2, 3. There's 3. And there's nothing on the mizzen mast. Alright. See, like this piece right here? With almost like a crow's nest. I have no idea what that's supposed to be. And that's it. These are the instructions. There's nothing there. So I don't know what these structures are. They don't even show up on what they're supposed to be. When it comes to the parts, we really don't have a lot of parts left. But we're going to take the masts now, and we actually have to do the we'll get them all ready. We're going to glue them into place. And I'm going to make the masts the espresso color. I like that color. Alright. And up until this point, I've been using my imagination and fabricating everything. To give you an idea, I fabricated all the pieces on the top of the deck. Well, with the exception of these. But I didn't have the grates, so I made the hatches closed. I made my own deck house because we didn't have anything for that. In the back, I had to make my own. I built it out, and I fabricated the own back section because they didn't really have anything. But so I'm going to have to do the same thing now for the masts, which no big deal. So let's get the ones. You would think that the thickest ones, or the thicker one, would be for the main mast. And these are all kind of small. so we have a long one for here. I'm not sure if we're probably gonna put one of the smaller ones on top of it. Alright, so we've got that one, and we'll take the next largest one. Man, I'm like really lost. Is this supposed to be in the mizzen mast? Because if we drill in, and that's probably going to be way too long. Alright, so that's more than likely not a mizzen mast. Because these are going to be pretty tall. They actually have them the same height. So if we put both of these like this, we can use the rigging to make it look like rope, and we can tie it together. And that leaves the mizzen mast. We could use this as the mizzen mast, because we're going to need, let's see, where's the... We need 1, 2, 3 cross beams for the sails, and we need one that's going to go in the back. So this is the next largest one. So this one more than likely is going to go in the back, and maybe we'll use the large one for the main mast. So we'll use 2 large ones. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do the main mast. And I'm going to use the Model Expo. I like the Insta-Cure. And then we're going to use some thread, and I'm going to make the rigging. We're actually going to use the rigging there, but we're going to glue it together first. Just like that. Alright, so the next one, see, they have both of them the same height. I would tend to think that the main mast would be a little bit higher. However, I'm going to make it like the instructions. They're both going to be the same height. So we're going to do the same thing for this. So let's make sure we got them. It's going to be just like that. And they're the same height, and we're going to go ahead, we're going to clamp this one. Let's just try it. We'll see how it goes. We're going to put some glue. Just like that. You want to make sure it's straight. Alright, let's try letting that dry and we'll see. If it doesn't really hold, then we'll have to do the drilling. If I don't have to drill it, I don't want to. So why don't we think about doing the rigging now? So I'm going to use my special rigging string. this aside for a moment. And I put a little bit of glue. And what I'm going to do is we're going to wrap it. There, that's pretty cool. And we're gonna let that dry. Yeah, still stable enough. So see what I'm trying to go with, guys? I've seen the old ships where they use the rigging to tie the masts together. So we're gonna do the same thing for the other side. And that's gonna go right there. Just like that. Right about there is good. All right. We're gonna wait for this to dry. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm trying to do with this, with the look. All right, we're gonna put this with the other mast. And let's see. Let's check in on the mizzen mast and we'll see if we actually need to drill it. It does feel pretty solid. Let me give it some reinforcing, a reinforcing shot. All right, get that one. So that's going to be facing forward, and it's going to go like this, right about there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to actually wrap it in rigging, just like they would have done. Gotta make sure it's straight. So this is gonna kind of go like that. All right, let's put that aside to dry for now. So now we're gonna do the back one, excuse me, the front one. That looks good. Okay, and we got one left, and that's going to go right about here. But you know what? Because I'm stupid, I ended up drilling that hole where I shouldn't have. So we got to bring this out a bit. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to try to build it out with some rigging, because I think that'll make it look as close to authentic. So I will wrap it in the rigging, and then what I can do is it'll fit and it'll cover in the hole. Alright, so let me tell you guys what I did. I glued this, and we'll do the same thing. When this is dry, we're going to cut the loose ends off. But I glued it, and then I put the rigging on it to help hold the joint in place. So this is all set now. I'm gonna glue this into place on the back. Yeah, that'll be good. But see, not only do we have to make sure it's straight up, we got to do it this way as well. See how we have to check it from all sides. All right, now when it comes to the other one, I want to do the same thing. We're going to put let's take the clamps off, and I'm going to do the same thing with the rigging. We're going to bring it all in, and we're going to make it look like the rigging is helping it stay together. Alright, so let me show you guys. I did the same thing for this. And it's a little uneven, but don't worry, we're going to end up cutting this section. But you can see we got the rigging is all set on the top sail. Excuse me, this is actually the bottom one. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing for the middle one. So let's take off the clamp. Alright, there. So we have the middle one. And again, when it's dry, we'll snip off all the extra. And lastly, we're going to do the top one. So, we have the mast for the front. Looks pretty good. Let's fit it into position. And we're going to think about gluing it. Alright, so I'm trying to hold it in place as I finally got it put into position. So when this dries, we'll have the mizzen mast in position, and there's no cross beam on the mizzen mast. We'll have the foremast, and you can see each section for the sails. There's 3 of them. We'll cut them a little bit smaller. And when it comes to the back of the ship, we've got the back, and you can see there's a cross beam that kind of goes off the back, and it has the sail that's coming down. Because we're doing the cross beam, so you would think there would be a sail there, and there's nothing in the instructions. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sails on the instruction sheet. And why don't we take a look? Because we don't even have the sails, guys. I have to use a pattern, and we have to cut them out. I think this is getting to the point where we can kind of let it set. So let's take a look at the sails. I think it's just about out of glue. Because the only other instruction sheet is actually for the sails. So when it comes to the sails themselves, you can see they just gave us a piece of material. And that's it. That's all we have. So we're gonna have to put the placement on the patterns to cut them out, and we're gonna need enough to cover the ship. All right. So let me show you guys the actual instruction patterns, so you can see the canvas sizes. And we're gonna have 2 of these, Actually, I think, let's see. This one looks like it's going to go on the back mast. And these two look like they could be tied off to the mizzen mast. There's actually 3, so we got 2 of these. I think we're going to do the sails first. We'll put them on, and then we'll do the rigging around the sails. It might be a little bit easier to do it that way. I don't notice any rat lines on here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go around, and we're going to trim all the excess rigging off. Yeah, that's pretty good, and everything seems to be pretty stable. It looks like the foremast, it's just ever so slightly turned. I'm going to have to live with that, though. All right, let's try to put some of the rigging. There, I think that's pretty cool looking. What do you guys think? There. And we'll cut it right about there. All right, I think I'm going to start with the back. Let's try to bring her forward. All right, let's see how that's going to be. So we're going to end up having to cut some of these pieces, but we'll stain them for now, and then if we need to cut them later on, we'll do that, and we'll just touch up the end. Yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. I just might get away with this. You guys to be able to see it all the way to the top. And again, I don't think they're going to be this tall, so we might have to trim a little bit off. That's no big deal, though. We'll just put some more stain on it. Make sure that we got all the sides, we got the underneath. We're going to have to let this dry a long time, guys, because we don't want the sails getting wet with the stain, because it just seems to take a while for the stain to dry. Let's see, we're looking all the way up. It looks like we got all the spots. All right, now I think we can start doing the cross sections. So the Minwood, the Minwax, excuse me, actually has consistency. It's almost like Worcestershire sauce. And you can see all the sections of the ship that we've done, and look, we hardly used any of it. This stuff is really cool. So let's do the bottom. I'm going to be careful with this. Let's see, let's make sure we get everything coated. Alright, how's that looking? I want to make sure we have everything. Perfect. Look at that. Beautiful. And I'll take you off the tripod in a minute. I just want to make sure that we have everything. Let's see, there's a couple of areas that I'd like to just touch up. Since I have the brush, might as well get it nice and even. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to cover up the maple, just because the lines looked horrible and I want it to look better. And what I'm going to do is, after she's finished, I'm going to do some designs in gold. We're going to pinstripe some of the some pinstriping on the back and on the sides around the windows. But it's too bad because I had wanted to keep the maple on the sides. It just looked terrible. The paint line, the lines were running. And all right, so let me show you guys. We'll go all the way up to the top of the mast. Hopefully you can see where I did the rigging. And like I said, when we do the sails and the rigging, if we need to cut the masts, we'll cut them. So we did the back piece, kind of like a sailboat with that piece that comes out the back. And we did the mizzen mast, and I put a cross beam on it. Again, we're going to cut that. It's not going to stay like that. And if you guys are going, hey, that doesn't look like the instructions, you're right. The instructions really weren't that helpful. So I've been using my imagination on her. And I went ahead and I covered up the maple. I know it looks plain right now, but don't worry, when it's dry, we're going to paint it. And I'm going to put some straighter lines along the sides. It's going to look a little bit neater. And I'm going to put some gold. The pin striping, we're going to do little designs in gold. So it's going to look good. And that'll be the finishing touches. I think what we're going to do next, the next video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start doing the sails. Because we're going to have to cut them out and we're going to get them ready. And then we'll put them onto the mast. So my friends, thank you for watching. And until my next video, I'll talk to you soon.